podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
So, 2 games, 1 goal worth watching from a Man United perspective. Better than 0, as was frequently happening over the last few weeks. That Amad Diallo goal was
nice.
Was real nice.
It was the only highlight of that game, really. I think I was going to try and think of some clever things to say about the Europa League game when I was thinking about it a few days ago, and then in the build-up to us just turning on the microphones here, I'd completely forgotten that game existed. So,
I had a lot of messages from people telling me that the reason that Franck Kessie's XG was so high is because he does take their penalties. Because I think I assumed that Zlatan took their penalties, but he missed a bunch, was taken off and gave them to Kessie. But you could see that he strikes a fine ball from open play. From his goal that was correctly ruled out for handball, but somewhat football terroristly ruled out for handball.
Yes, but of course those rules have already been changed. It's the 3rd time the handball rule has been changed this season. It just doesn't have to be adopted until June, and so in UEFA competitions it hasn't been adopted, but as of June the 1st, or whenever it's actually ratified, that will not be handball anymore. It's like it will not be because... Oh, no, actually, no, sorry. It will
No,
be.
he deliberately... Yeah.
Well, no, it's not... Well, deliberate, non-deliberate doesn't make any difference in this phase of play. It's irrelevant. No, the goal scorer will not be able to use his hand in any way, but other people could, right? So right now, if it hits someone's arm, bounces down, and then Franck Kessie blams it into the top bins, that is no goal now, but will be a goal in June.
Right.
Yeah. His arm and he scores the goal. It will still be ruled out. Sorry for handball, but it's just adding an extra layer of confusion because now we'll have 3 different handball rules depending on who you are and in what phase of play. And yeah,
so we need to come up with something beyond Schrodinger's handball now because Schrodinger is a binary situation, right? It's one of 2 states. This is like a Schrodinger's triple handball. We also had...
it's Escher.
Yeah.
It's MC Escher at handballs. You don't know whether you're going up or down, whether it's in or out, or goal or no goal.
So there was that. There was the Kessie thing, and Milan absolutely battered us with their super second string side and so many injuries. I talked about Hakan Kanahoglu. He did not feature in this game. Obviously, Zlatan we knew was out. Kessie looks a fine player. Based on the one game I've seen him play. But United really struggled to impose themselves. They scored a lovely goal, but that was on a counter in the second half. Great ball from Fernandes, absolutely brilliant Chicharito-esque scenes from Amad Diallo, and you can see why everyone's so excited about him, can't you?
Of course, and he'll take a time to mature, but the raw talent is there, isn't it? And the speed over the ground, the technical ability, left foot, right foot. And I don't think too many people thought he had much of a header in him, but apparently he does. A really lovely way to make your full debut for United with a goal. So, yeah, awesome for him. Those are all the highlights of the game, though. It wasn't great. And I've seen some criticism of Dean Henderson for the United goal. I mean, far more of it should be laid at the feet of the 4 or 5 defenders not marking the zone. One of you. If you're going to mark zonally, one of you mark zonally. But they're all looking at each other and no one did. Just really awful. I don't know whether they set that up wrong or who made the mistake there. Solskjaer blamed, well, he didn't blame Matic. He blamed Milan for blocking off Matic's run. But it's the zonal system, folks. One of you go. No one did. And then the header has plenty of power. So it's hard to pin too much blame on Henderson, although obviously it's gone basically straight at him. If he'd just stood still, he'd have probably saved it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of De Gea would have saved that about that. which
it's a really
they
reductive form of analysis, wouldn't it?
I do think the one relevant part of that analysis is that it's not like Henderson hasn't got weaknesses that are De Gea's strengths.
Sure.
They just, that you want to, much like we used to talk about with Man United youth, Nick, Man United youth said that we should smash Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Ethan Laird into one player. That would be the best fullback in the world. Henderson and De Gea, if you could take both of their respective strengths, that would be a big deal.
So look, I mean, that's all fair. I can't exactly say that Henderson's weakness is a bullet header straight at him. I mean...
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And I think there's been a few times in which De Gea has dived under a shot or two in the last few years. So I'm not going to start putting too much blame on Henderson. I mean, it's nice for him that he's getting a few games, and if it's a segue at all, he was pretty flawless in the game against West Ham. Including, what looked like a very sort of ugly attempt at a punch where he cleaned out absolutely everybody, including his own man, which...
that's what we want from you, Dean.
Dave would absolutely never do.
That's Dean Henderson's key point of difference right there. So, on to the game against West Ham. David Moyes is a coward. He is a coward. Honestly, I know I've definitely talked about this game before, and I was talking to a friend of the show, Cal Gildart, about this, and he was talking about a quarter-final game against Wigan when Everton were completely safe from relegation and not particularly likely to do anything positive in the league, where they played a really weakened side in a FA Cup quarter-final against Wigan. And there's a game that always stands out in my mind, which is a game between Everton and Arsenal when Everton were 5th and Arsenal were 4th going into the penultimate day of the season. And Moyes set up to play for a draw at Highbury, probably the Emirates. But anyway, one of those two. And I remember at the time thinking, what are you doing? Like, why would you do this? And today, if they'd come with their most attacking, productive, positive side, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable, I guess, to say, well, actually, United have really struggled to break down teams that sit defensively. And they did today, they relied on the positive bounce of a ball, but they created easily enough chances to beat West Ham today, and West Ham created nothing of any value. Mikel Antonio looked a complete cut above every other West Ham attacking player, and there just weren't any other attacking players until the 60th minute. He's just a coward.
He is. This is the second time in a few weeks that they've come to Old Trafford with zero ambition. I mean, not even the ambition to sit deep and then attack, because they didn't throw anyone forward in those breaks. They hardly had a break forward. They were hoping for set pieces or a piece of fortune or a long ball over the top, and actually, as it happens, that, not to bang on about a very broken record, but the thing that causes, Lindelof and Maguire problems didn't present itself. They defended very well today, both of them, but they had a thing to defend against, not men running around them and balls passed through between the lines. So they just did nothing today, West Ham. They didn't deserve anything. They didn't deserve anything in the cup game, and they got nothing out of both games. So,
Yeah. And David Moyes is
by the way, they're completely over achieving all their underlying data. So lots of praise for being 5th or whatever, but they shouldn't be anywhere near there.
Yeah, and David Moyes has won 7 league games in his entire career at Old Trafford, and he managed us for a season.
Oh, man.
It's not good, is it? The number of times he's brought different teams there as well. Anyway, he's rubbish.
Friend of the show, Prakash, describing him as looking like a bleached cat's ass, which I thought was kind of mean, but also fairly fair as well.
I mean, I feel like it's bad enough when I insult his person. I call him a coward, but somehow that feels like that's a choice. What he looks like. I mean, are we really living in a world where we have to slate people for what they look like? I'm tired. This has been a very tiring week in terms of people being nasty to each other. So,
anyway. I fully agree with you generally and as a matter of principle. But it's David Moyes, so I'm willing to bend the rules. All
right. This game, I don't know. I found it kind of a hard watch, but that's mostly really based on big stretches of the first half. And I think if, Rashford's header at the back post was a pretty big chance.
Yep.
And if that had gone in, I'm not saying he should have scored it, but he definitely could have scored it. Mason Greenwood, I thought, was excellent, actually. I thought he led the line really well and hit the post, didn't he, with his one decent opportunity of his own. But generally speaking, I thought that's one of the sort of more rounded centre-forward performances from our Mace.
I thought...
It's a special talent.
Yeah, he really is. And he drew out wide to the right and the left on occasions. And obviously it was him that put the ball in for Rashford to miss that header. 0.35 chance, that one. So it's hard to say should, but it's a big chance. And Mason also had the shot after the nice team break by United. That Fabianski tipped wide. I think we were talking in the infamous NQAT WhatsApp group about just how few team goals United have scored in recent times, and the reliance on either set pieces or individual brilliance has been high, for sure. But that would have been a very nice one. As it turned out, the winner was a set piece and a piece of individual brilliance by Matt Dawson to head it into his own net.
Matt Dawson to change sports, be 10 years younger than himself. Matt Dawson's younger brother, Craig.
Yeah, that's it. Dawson, whatever. One of them. Yeah. Who's on loan from, doesn't he need like another game or something? He's on loan from Watford to West Ham, and that's triggered as a permanent deal after X number of games. And I think it's only like 2 million or so, the transfer fee.
Right. Yeah, and he's done really well for West Ham. Attracting lots of positive attention, but also knocked the ball into the back of his own net, which was, McTominay claiming that goal was peak. Attacking player claims own goal, wasn't it? It was good times.
Yeah, claimed it for, a third of a second before probably realising that there are 800 cameras on this game and absolutely everybody will know that it wasn't him. So
yeah, it was, they plugged away. There were problems from some of United's kind of attacking players. Bruno tried a lot of stuff. Not a lot of it came off. Dan James has got a run in the side because he scored 5 goals in 6 games or something, and we now need to start looking how many games ago it was that he scored the last one of those, and we need to set a date. We need to set a stop date on Dan James's good run of form, right? You can't just be like, oh, Dan James is in a good run of form, he should keep playing. If he has as many bad games in a row as he had good games, which he's got to be like 1 or 2 away from, we have to say the Dan James experiment needs to be put on hold for a bit longer again.
He's Teflon Dan, isn't he? He scored 3 goals in August last season, and people were saying, oh, good season from Dan James up until about May. And they weren't even playing football in May. So it's, I don't think a hot streak for a few games. A couple of those were pretty scrappy goals where he just put his swinger through it as well. Really constitutes a great run of form. And like playing on the right-hand side there, he didn't have a lot of space to run into, which is obviously his thing. And then he just runs into blind alleys, which is the obvious piece of analysis that every podcaster on the planet makes about him. But and like the one big break where United was 3 against 2 and he plays the ball behind Bruno, and it was just the pass he had to make in a yard ahead of Bruno, and United would have been probably in on goal, and he didn't make it.
Yeah, the one thing that I would give him credit for, which actually in the first half the other strikers weren't doing, neither Rashford nor Greenwood were making runs in behind that very deep line defence, and there was one particular passage of play where it was really noticeable. Dan James really was the only person being mobile ahead of the ball. Rashford made a very long kind of horizontal run from one side to the other, but there wasn't a lot of vertical movement, let's say, up the pitch. Listen, it's not easy against deep line defences, although it is a shame that Edinson Cavani has been injured as much as he has, because I do think if nothing else, his attacking teammates just need to watch him do that and be like, oh, well, that's useful.
Yeah, and again, a piece of analysis that's been made a fair bit, which is what can these players learn off an old pro like Edinson Cavani? Because that's, he scored a few goals this season, not tons, because his injury record is not awesome at the moment, and he was in and out of the team until everyone realised that Martial's having a stinker of a season. So. We'll see whether people learn off him. We'll also see, by the way, whether United renew him for another year. They haven't optioned the option yet for a second season on that. There was some debate sparked by his dad, I think on a radio station, saying that he might go and play in Argentina instead, which I guess might be an option for him. He certainly won't get anywhere near the wage he's earning at United, but maybe he doesn't need that at this stage and would rather be closer to home.
Well, he definitely doesn't need it, does he? Unless he's been really bad with his money, because he was at PSG in peak oil times for years and years and years.
Natural gas, Qatar, natural gas. Let's get your carbon fuel correct here.
Should also probably point out that he did a classic. He took to Instagram to say proud to wear the shirt. And I've been learning a bit of Spanish, and I understood the shirt part, but I can't remember what the word for proud was. But anyway, there we go. Luke Shaw was good. There you go.
Yeah.
This is extraordinary. He was man of the match. Gary Neville gave him man of the match. I think absolutely rightly so. He looked a constant threat down the left. Numerous times got in behind a defence that was quite hard to get in behind. Put really good balls into the box numerous times. Not sure if he was directly responsible. Well, I guess he was directly responsible for the goal, wasn't he? Because he took the corner that led to it, I think. What a see. I mean, I know we talked about this last week, so probably not that much to add, but an absolutely remarkable turnaround and another man of the match performance.
Yeah. And look, I fully agree. It is remarkable. It's remarkable because we didn't see it coming. I definitely didn't see it coming. I thought he was done as a player at the very top level. And I suppose you could argue whether United are really at the very top level, but he's having a great season. I'd love to have some insight either from him or the manager on what they think has contributed to the turnaround, because the, again, very reductive analysis that I hear most of all is that United buying Alex Telles has motivated Shaw. And I feel like that's not much of the full picture. If it's really motivation that's the problem, then we should be asking a question about why Shaw has been at the club for so long. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who go, yeah, well, exactly. But I think it's more than that. A combination of fitness, motivation, professionalism, realising, maturity, realising that he's now on the back end of his career, not the front end of it, because he's 25, 26, something like that. So
I wonder whether it's also recovery from the leg break, because it's so easy for us to just assume, okay, he's back, he can play, he's okay now. But, every time he runs into the box, he's got the kind of scars of what happened to him that day, which could have ended his career, and so it's not so easy to just fully, and as I've said numerous times, there's a lot of players at United where you have to take 2.5 years out of their career, because Jose Mourinho was their manager for those 2.5 years, and you can't assess what they did in that time. He shouldn't be in charge of the lives of young people. Rashford and Martial and Shaw in particular. Pogba also kind of, but Pogba was already, an established star. Right. He won the World Cup in that time.
Yeah.
But those three in particular.
Stay tuned for the Bacchus Show, where we'll dissect how Jose has already ruined Gareth Bale's good run of form, which was, 2 or 3 games long.
I mean, this is absolutely ideal, because there was also that Eric Lamela Rabona, which was a moment of, that lit up the universe. The world is better for the fact that Eric Lamela did that, but also Tottenham lost, so it's perfect. Anyway, yeah, more of that on the Bacchus Show. And this is the only circumstances in which I'd want Tottenham to lose the North London derby. Out of those two teams, it's very clear which one you'd pick. But anyway, I don't have anything else to say about the West Ham game.
No, I mean, it's very hard to find a lot of highlights from it. It wasn't super exciting, was it? And I think that's mostly on West Ham. for deliberately setting up to squeeze the life out of the game, and a little bit on United for not taking the chances. I mean, if United had taken that Rashford chance and perhaps one of the other big ones, Mason's shot had creeped in and it was 3-0, you'd go, yeah, all right, well, routine win.
Yeah.
Routine win against a limited opponent. So, and West Ham are limited. Fifth in the table or not fifth in the table, it's not an awesome side.
And I guess the one of the things that you would also say about this is it's a massive win.
Very important
at this point. Yeah. At this point, the wins are just absolutely vital, particularly with Leicester smashing Burnley. Was it Burnley that Leicester smashed? They smashed
Sheffield
someone.
United.
There you go.
Who were in this
Close.
game for all of 5 minutes.
So yeah, should we take a little break and come back to talk about who Man United have got next?
We will do, and a little bit chat about money and shares and ugly stuff like that, I think.
If you want more from the show in between shows, check us out on the socials. We are NQAT Pod on Instagram, Ed's at NQAT Pod on Twitter, and we are under our real names on Facebook at No Question About That. All right, well, welcome to Economics Hour with Paul and Ed. Brackets, Paul very much in a supporting role here. I saw that Avram Glazer sold some Class A shares. But they're not the good ones, right? The Class A's are not the good ones.
They're always the good ones, Paul. Come on, please. Anyway, no, he sold a bit of both, actually, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Class B's are the one that have the voting rights and Class A's are the ones that don't. They all paid the same amount of dividends, I mean, which is basically...
It's really funny when you straight up just call them Class A's. It's really funny. Anyway, sorry.
This is a joke solely for people of a certain age in the UK. Everyone else is going, well, what are they talking about? What?
Yeah.
What? And long shall it remain that way. Anyway, yes, he sold what amounts to is selling, because there's a prospectus out there, about $100 million worth of shares. The reduction in voting rights for him is about 3%. I mean, it's not going to make any difference to control of the club. And really, honestly, I look at this, and every time this has happened, and I see the Glazers doing this, I think, what institution is it that's buying these shares? Because the yield on United is pretty poor. I mean, it's at about $20, or was, after this came to light. I think it sank back down to about 18, IPO'd at 14. So the return on that, $4 on 14 is, work out the maths, less than 30% over 10 years. It's not much, is it? I mean, it's slightly better than sticking your cash under a mattress. And when it comes to $100 million, I suppose it would be a large mattress. But it's not great. I mean, you'd probably get more money out of government bond, and it's a hell of a lot safer. So I just wonder what kind of institutions really sticking their money into United. And clearly he wants to cash a bit out. This is a way of cashing out without taking any risks. They still have control. They can sell the club at a later stage, and he can go and do what he wants with these $100 million. So,
you've explained this to me so many times. I'm never for the life of me understand what Class A shares even are, because it's a share in the company, but not really.
Yeah, no,
right?
No, it's a real
like,
share
what
in
is
the
it?
company. It's a real share in the company. I mean, so look, it's a form of company governance which has become popular in the tech industry. So a great example is Facebook, where Zuckerberg owns significantly less than 50% of the stock. Actually, it might even be single digits these days, but has more than 50% of the voting rights, because he owns the type of a Class B share that has the voting rights attached to it. Investors know this up front. It's not a secret, and they can decide whether they want to have any control of the company or whether they're just making a bet on the future growth of that company. Right? And the money will be in the capital gains and any dividends that are paid by the company. Now, as it happens, United do pay dividends, not a lot, and it won't be very much this year. And if you're an investor, you probably know you're going to get some, because the Glazers as is often said, use the club like a piggy bank. That's how they make money out of the club, apart from the sort of capital appreciation since they bought it. So that's one reason for buying it. You typically don't get dividends with a lot of the big tech companies, and there you're just making a bet on the future of the company and growth of the company, and it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that the company is going to be successful, therefore people buy the stock, therefore the price goes up.
So in this case, you said what kind of institutions are buying this. Is there a chance that this is like it's a long bet because at some point the Glazers are going to sell Man United, and at that point then your shares could be worth a lot of money?
Sure. Well, I mean, you can cash out at any point, of course. It's public.
No,
I think anyone who buys United shares are pretty long on United. So it's institutional. I mean, BlackRock owns some. I think Warren Buffett's fund owns a bit, and then there's a whole bunch of pension funds and that kind of thing that own some of the publicly traded. I mean, the thing is with United, even though the share price is fairly stable, it's not a lot traded. There aren't huge volumes of stuff going into United. It's a small company. It would be considered a very small cap company in New York Stock Exchange terms. So, it's not a big deal from an investor's point of view. But yeah, it's probably pension funds and that kind of thing that will be buying this. And the pitch is reasonable stability in cash generation, which has actually been true. So look at the last 10 years, United have had modest growth, at least over the last 6, in revenues. Dipped this year, but for understandable short-term reasons. And then there's the promise of the reorganised Champions League format, which, given the 4 spots saved for historical reasons, probably means United have a much better chance of making the Champions League than they once might have done.
What an awful, awful world.
Yeah.
Like, just, good. The Champions League is becoming a European Super League, whether we like it or not. And also, the owner of Man United is selling $100 million worth of Man United stock in a way that will not in any way benefit anything to do with Man United whatsoever.
No, it won't. And he really did nothing to earn that, air quotes going on here, which you can't see because it's a podcast, and our one video version of the podcast doesn't have any of us on it, so, for good reason.
Maybe we'll change that one day, but also maybe we definitely won't. Talking of change, what a remarkable series of dramatic structural changes Man United have undergone. Finally, they have responded to the clarion call of the football watching public and appointed a football director, not a director of football, a man who reports directly to Ed Woodward. So my favourite thing about this, there's a lot of lovely brouhaha made of the fact that Darren Fletcher is in as a technical director, working probably quite closely with Nicky Butt, who is in charge of the bit in terms of moving from the youth team into the first team, that pathway. Darren Fletcher's going to be definitely, he's a fine football brain and a good, lots of institutional knowledge, a great person to have in the setup. John Murtaugh, who has done an excellent job at the academy, according to everyone that says anything about him, will now report direct to Ed Woodward. But my favourite thing about this is that Matt Judge has been given a job as Director of Football Negotiations. I tweeted a long thread about this, my first serious Man United tweets in many a year, and a lot of people were replying, well, now he's not directly reporting to Ed Woodward anymore. It's like, okay, well, maybe the reporting line will make a dramatic change of difference, but even if it does, I'm going to say a man who is a pilloried laughingstock at doing football negotiations has been given the job of Director of Football Negotiations.
Yes, if anything, it's an upgrade. He's been upgraded. I mean, I like you have a significant amount of cynicism about these appointments, and we can take each of them individually because they do mean different things. Although obviously we're looking at it all as a package, but. I got a fair bit of push actually on my cynicism, which was basically amounts to, well, why don't we just wait and see what happens? I mean, it's the Peter principle in all its manifestation, isn't it? It's, just because they've got shiny new job titles doesn't mean their skill sets have been leveled up. In fact, we know nothing about the skills of Murta in this particular role, much more expansive role. He was head of academy, where you say he looks like he's done a very good job, because there's a good amount of talent in that academy, both in recruitment and the training, right, which it needed that leveling up. And Darren Fletcher will see whether he's a good technical director. Never done that job before. Who knows? Hopefully, he seems a very intelligent man. Hopefully he'll have a good strategic view of the whole squad, which is what you do as a technical director, making sure that coaching and squad planning and management and long-term thinking are right across the club, right? We don't know about anything to do with these two. The other one, Matt Judge, has got the same job with a different job title. Instead of, commercial director, he's now doing the thing he is, manifestly bad at, because we've seen it again and again. So, anyway.
Yeah, I said also in that Twitter thread, and I've mentioned many times on this show, in what has been described as an infamous what's the point of all this? Can we just burn podcasting down to the ground in the last Jose Mourinho episode? One of the things I find endlessly frustrating about social media coverage of United and fan channels and podcasts like this very one and conversations like the very one we're having is, of course, we don't know. Not really. We don't really know. And we've never met Matt Judge. We've never sat in on negotiations. We've never spoken to I've never spoken to anyone who's spoken to someone directly about him. This is about reading the tea leaves. That's all it is. So the fan expert thing, there's no expertise here. There's only looking at the situation and making a best guess. Now, having said that, this is something like all the stuff that came out after the Jadon Sancho thing, where obviously, both sides are trying to sell a version of that story. But Matt Judge looked a completely, Woodward in particular, but Matt Judge personally came out of that story atrociously. And in terms of football negotiations at the club, we've got the Smalling contract, the Jones contract, the De Gea contract maybe, the handling of Herrera's lack of contract and departure, leaving a massive gap in the squad that was not then filled. The Alexis Sanchez situation. United's commercial negotiations with players have been absolutely atrocious. The infamous story about Judge sitting down with a player, whether this is true or not, and asking him where he played. This is a guy with a bad reputation from everything that I can see. Now, maybe that's all spin and counter spin, and actually he's done a damn fine job, and will be brilliant, and it'll all be smooth sailing from here because a new guy's got the title of football director. But this is also, and this is, like I said, I don't know anything, but this feels very true. This is also Ed Woodward shielding himself, like the Tories with the Lib Dems in 2010. Like, there's a human shield now for Woodward. Well, we tried appointing a football director, but they haven't actually given someone a direct reporting line into the Glazers who's in charge of transfers. They all report to Woodward.
Yeah, what I wanted to say was, look, one reading of this could be fairly positive. Hey, aren't they moving towards a more modern sort of structure? And in some sense, yes, there's Fletcher as the technical director, Judge as chief football negotiator, boo. Alan Dawson, head of football operations, on the sort of process side of things, all reporting into Murta as the director of football director. But in a more continental system, all those roles would probably be in place for sure. Much more compartmentalization than was the traditional way it's happened at Manchester United. But that football director would probably take on more of a general manager role. And in fact, the manager may end up reporting to them. In this case, Ed Woodward has hived off a lot of that responsibility. And he still has the direct reporting line with Murta and Solskjaer. And so I don't see that much will change, right? And it feels, for that reason, from an organisational governance standpoint, that really it's the same thing, with a few deck chairs moved around. And ultimately on the big things that we want, managers being appointed, checks being signed for the right kind of players, they will all go through Woodward and Joel Glazer. 100%. That won't have changed at all. And so the fannying around on a big transfer will take place all summer. In fact, maybe it won't this summer just because United are already briefing that we're skint and there won't be any money. The fanning around on a new contract for someone will happen, and then Ollie Solskjaer will be given a 6-year contract after, and then United will finish 5th.
Okay. So to to just slightly turn down the cynicism dial for a second, here's the one thing that you could say is United trying to incorporate a bit of traditional Unitedness into this, which is this is a club who have the kind of totemic figurehead model of manager to end all totemic figurehead models of managers. And so maybe there is an argument to say that you don't want to move completely to a director of football above the coach situation. You still want a manager because it's United and we're supposed to have one of those. And I honestly have some sympathy for that point of view. The problem then is, as ever, the difference between very process, structural driven things and things with more flexibility in them. When you go to a less process driven model, you need better personnel. And generally speaking, the less process-driven things with better personnel are better than the very process-driven things. But when Ed Woodward is the chief executive of the club, or whatever he is, vice chairman, executive vice chairman, or maybe that's changed too, I don't know. Anyway, when he's the guy, it doesn't matter what else is going on because there's such a vacuum of ability and awareness and talent and just knowing what to do and how to do it about that guy, that it's, all the rest of it is window dressing in a way.
Yeah, and I think I come out of this with that viewpoint, really, that much as like the reorganized structure might from the outside seem good, it's taken them 2 years to come up with this answer of all people they were very familiar with already. Fletcher being the one real unknown because this is really his first job. I mean, he's been coaching, hasn't he, at the club for a few months, but his first sort of big job in football post-playing. So,
yeah. And if I had to take a punt on any ex-United player, he'd be right near the top of the people that you'd want in a job like that, to be positive for a second, like not just hope for the best a little bit, to be actually positive. Yeah. I think I think he's going to turn out to be a great appointment. We don't know that, but I think it.
Yeah, I really hope so. I would bet on, again, reading the tea leaves. He's intelligent. People talk about him being very emotionally intelligent as well, which in that kind of role I think you do need. Let's hope he understands what's required from a sort of organisational point of view to make sure United are moving forward and are consistent. In terms of the quality and the standards remain high. I did kind of think it was interesting that when Solskjaer talked about him, he only talked about it in this kind of, kind of cliched generic fashion, which was like, oh, he's got United's DNA. Well, great. I mean, Solskjaer has United's DNA. It doesn't really mean much, does it? So you want, at a club like United, which has... at least the fans have designs on the top things in domestic and continental football. You want, real excellence in what they're able to deliver. More than, he's got passion. SH.
Yeah, but I know you're not saying this, but of course that would be a gross misrepresentation of everything that Darren Fletcher has given off in any. If you've ever listened to Darren Fletcher talking about football, he's a guy whose favourite player growing up was Redondo. Like, he's not a passion merchant. No. This guy is like an absolute lover of the game.
Oh, a total nerd for the game as well, In the same,
which is what you want
for sure in that role. Yes, absolutely, sort of in the same way Ander Herrera is as well, and you suspect he might be a great coach as well one day.
Yeah. So that's money, that's appointments. Oh, one thing we all have to work out is how you pronounce John Murtaugh's name, because at the moment I'm just pronouncing it like Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon, but that is spelt differently. So maybe it's Murtaugh. We'll find out.
Murtaugh, might be Murtaugh, might be Murtaugh.
Yeah,
in Glaswegian.
Yeah. So United have some actual games coming up. The second leg against Milan on Thursday in Milan. In Milan, are they going to Italy? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think so because that corridor's okay, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's why Italy could come to us. I mean, Milan could come to us. 1-1 going into that, very delicately poised. Would have been nice to go into that 1-0 up. Still think United are possibly favourites for that. If they can they might have some more space on the counter.
Yeah.
But it's going to be another rotated side. I guess Eric Bailly will play. You were right. Teller's played in that one. I guess he'll play in this one as well. And it's not the end of the world if we get knocked out of this. Like, top four's looking good. It'd be nice to be in the Europa League. You want to win everything, but...
Well, look, it's delicately poised, and I think United, for Solskjaer as well, he needs a trophy. I mean, it's trophyless season last season, and the season before that, and the season before that, right? So these things do matter. So if United are not going to win the Premier League, so don't pull off one of the FA Cup and tough game against Leicester coming up at the weekend, or the Europa League, then we'll be talking about 5 years since the trophy. I mean, these things do matter. And the sense of, I mean, sorry for the comparison because it's unfair on Ole Solskjaer, but look at Mikel Arteta and the boost he's got from winning the FA Cup. He's doing a manifestly job as Arsenal manager, albeit they beat Spurs today, but they are very, very mid-table. And he's got a nice hairline and a trophy. And that has given him a lot of space. So I think it would be good for Ollie and for United. And I hope they're able to put out a reasonably strong side against Milan and they're able to put in a performance. So,
well, I guess we should sort of take these two games as a whole then as well, given, as you rightly said, the game on Sunday at 5 o'clock, next Sunday at 5 o'clock. FA Cup Sunday at 5 o'clock. It's gone to the dogs. Anyway, we're away at Leicester. And yeah, so this is a kind of season defining week in some ways, or at least the shape of the rest of the season will be heavily influenced by what happens in these games, because we beat Leicester, that's a trip to Wembley for the semi-final. We beat Milan, that's into the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which is now it's starting to get pretty real. You only got to win 3 games then to win the whole thing. How's he gonna apportion his forces? Will he put, I guess, given that it's the FA Cup, he might choose to play a stronger side in the Europa League, knowing the task at hand there and knowing what the score in that game is and what's required of that second leg, versus then going into the Leicester game and hoping for sort of one-off scrap and hoping that Leicester rest a lot of players for that game, which they might well do. I don't think they've got a game in midweek. But they, their schedule's been... No, they haven't got another game until that game, but their schedule's been thick and fast too. Is there an international break after that?
Yeah, it's coming up in about a week's time or something. Yeah, just after that. I mean, just God almighty. I mean, I think there's been quite a lot of cancellations. Actually, I think most of the South American fixtures have been cancelled because, for the most part, players coming from Europe will have to quarantine after they get back. You can debate the rights and wrongs of which country is on which country's red list, but that's the way it is. It's still pretty nuts to send players off into different bubbles. The trust here is that everyone is observing the bubble throughout European football. And that all this travel doesn't cause problems. So let's hope so. But if it, there's a few convenient injuries and players pulling out of squads or Solskjaer putting his foot down or whatever it is, then good for United. I think no one needs this round of international fixtures. And by the way, I think I'm right in saying Europa League is normal format. I don't think we go to one leg like we did last season.
Oh wow!
So I think it's 2 legs all the way to the final. I could be wrong there. Correct me if I am, listeners, but I think so. And which means quite a lot of games after this. Could be another 6-7 after this one, plus the FA Cup, plus the remaining, how many games now? 9 games in the Premier League. So it's going to be packed until middle of May.
Hopefully, if they win this game,
and Bruno will play
Milan.
every bloody minute of it because
and Harry Maguire
and so
will too.
Harry Maguire and I mean Donny van der Beek is injured at the moment, but if he wasn't injured, he still wouldn't be playing because Bruno's understudy never gets a game because Bruno never gets a rest.
So Bruno will play both these games.
He will. And by the way, United don't have too many choices, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of the problem. I wonder whether we're going to... Because Martial's injured, Cavani's injured, so that means Dan James is almost definitely getting a game with Van der Beek and Pogba both out. We're going to need some players to come back from injury, I guess, after the international break. So I wonder whether we'll see... I wonder if Telles won't even play one of these games and Shaw will just play both of them because of the international break coming up next. I think it might be possible.
Don't England have 3 games and Shaw's in the squad?
They do, but is he?
So,
I was going to say, I didn't know they didn't even announce the squad yet.
I don't know. Okay, listeners, I'll admit to not fully taking part in focusing on England, so they might not have done. I just assumed he was because I thought I'd seen some positive quotes about him from Gareth Southgate, but he's going to be, if he's not, because he's fit and he's playing well. So anyway, I imagine there'll be some rotation. Telles has been playing most of the European games, so I think he'll play. So
this is what I want, Ed. I want your hard and fast predictions for who is going to play the Milan game.
Henderson, although De Gea might be back for the Leicester game, I wonder whether, although Henderson would normally play in the Cups, whether Ollie will want to give him a game. We'll see.
Nah, there's no reason to just let him. I don't mean that nastily about De Gea. I just mean why would you rush him back for the game when Henderson would be playing in the Cups anyway?
Yeah. So yeah, Henderson. I mean, there isn't really an alternative to Wan-Bissaka unless Williams plays, but he hasn't been given an option. Bailly, Maguire, Telles. That's the back 4 against Milan. Matic, and one of Fred or McTominay. By the way, I was shouting at the TV today every time Fred gave away the ball, thinking that he was giving it away about 50% of the time. Still above 90%, but it's just in some really frustrating situations. But yeah, one of Fred and McTominay, whoever's got the most in the tank, I guess. And then there's no choices up front. I don't think he's going to start Diallo, which means it's James Greenwood, Rashford, and Bruno.
All right, I think that sounds a reasonable shout, and I wonder if that's the team, but with Lindelof and Shaw against... and then Fred and McTominay rather than Matic against Leicester.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds great. It's honestly so grim at the moment, isn't it? Just want Pogba back in the side. Just want a bit of something extra. But listen, let's not get too greedy. Beat City last weekend. Followed that up with a non-humiliating result, although completely after the Lord Mayor's Show performance against Milan. And then a good result and an okay performance against West Ham. So given that we're in mid-pandemic football, can't really complain too much about that. But I just wish it was a little more exciting. I guess we'll have moments of excitement to come. Hopefully one of these 2 games will provide that. I'm going to predict a score of 2-1 to Milan and United going out and 1-0 to Leicester and United going out. So 2 losses.
Man.
Sorry, I don't want that to happen.
Downer. If I was...
Oh, no. Do you know what? 2-1 Milan and 1-0 to us against Leicester. That's my predictions.
Fine.
They'll rest
You
players.
flip-flopped. Yes, they will rest players.
I'll flip-flop.
And they've got some injuries too, Leicester. So, if I was smarter, I'd come up with the version of Debbie Downer, which rhymed with Paul or something like that, but I'm not. So I can't.
It feels like, I don't know why, it's some sort of bad thing to predict that United might lose a game when, but they've been not that good.
You always
lose.
You're talking United down. That's what you do, Paul. Yeah.
For clicks, isn't it?
Is.
It's good for us when United lose. We make more money out of it.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, inside joke there.
Just to clarify, right? That was pure sarcasm because there are parts of the world where sarcasm is less popular. So yes, that is not the case.
a slight aside, my former company where a whole bunch of Brits worked in a team managed by someone from Korea, sarcasm doesn't translate well, especially the driest of dry British sarcasm. As you can imagine, she just basically translated everything as people being unbelievably mean to each other and horrible about each other for no real reason.
Hey, listen, I think the UK as a culture could learn a lot from cultures where the default mode of human interaction is not being viciously cruel. But hey.
I've got a few other stories, but I'm not gonna repeat them on air. Okay, you asked me for a prediction. I think 1-1 in Milan, and it's going to go all the way to penalties. And I don't know who's going to win it, but I would Rashford, Telles, Bruno. I think we've got 3 bankers there. I don't know the rest of them though.
Mace could take a pen. Surely.
He can with either foot. Maybe we'll do it with both at the same time. And then Leicester, I don't know how to call this one because I think I'd be worried actually, but Leicester I think will rest players. So,
Debbie Downer.
Yeah, I'm going to say 1-0 to United. Yeah,
great. This show is so stupid. Just 20 minutes of really serious analysis of all the structural flaws at the club, and then just absolute pure waffle about the previews. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. And patreon.com/NQATpod if you want even more rubbish every week. We will carry on now and talk to the Patreon backers about all the football this weekend. But I have to confess ahead of time, the rest of the non-Man United football this weekend that I have watched is the Eric Lamela Rabona goal. That's it. That's the only. I don't even know any of the scores. So sorry, everyone. But anyway, more of that to come. It will include completely founded, although not based on specific information, Jose Mourinho slander. Thanks for listening, everyone else, and we'll see you next week.
Bye now. Thanks a lot.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.